What's good, everyone? For today's video, I'm covering my last photo walk talk here in Yerevan, Armenia. If you haven't seen the other three I did here in Yerevan, be sure to check those out. But for this one, we're getting outside the center of the city a bit, and we're covering the district of Shengavit, which has become one of my favorite areas for street photography, maybe my favorite now. And I'm gonna get into why and share some details behind the walk. But first off, if you're not familiar with what a photo walk talk video is and you haven't seen some of the other ones I've done, it's kind of my twist on the photo walk videos you might have seen from other photographers. But instead of taking you out on the walk with me, it's more about bringing you back and taking the photos from the walk and learning through them. Because learning through your photos and others' photos is one of the best ways to improve and learn photography. And what I do is I select around 20 photos from the walk, photos where I think I can share the most insights and different ways to read and learn from your photos, and then also show you a variety of the walk so you know what it looks like. And you'll see that when we get into it, but this photo walk talk, I'm covering the district of Shengavit, like I said, and it's one of 12 districts in Yerevan. It's the second largest. It's in an area that's extremely old. They say it was populated even back in as far as I think 3200 BC. There's remnants of homes, like old stone homes that are over 6,000 years old, but we're covering the actual more developed area, and it's a couple neighborhoods we're focusing on, the neighborhoods that I like the most. And what I really like about it is it just has a ton of character. Now, while it's extremely old, there was a period of time where it was abandoned a bit, but then during the Soviet era, they expanded outside of the center of the city, and they expanded into Shengavit and built neighborhoods. It became kind of an industrial area with factories. And so you get that kind of Soviet feel. But what I like is all the different neighborhoods. They have those Soviet block apartments, but you can just explore all these different areas. And it has a mixture of that neighborhood, local feel, very authentic and genuine. But then you also have a main square, one of the busier square areas in the city. You have a couple metro stations that are busy. You have shopping streets. You have a mixture of a lot of different things. You have a produce market. You have a market actually by one of the metro underground by the metro station too. So there's a lot to see, a lot to do for street photography. And for me, it's probably the most authentic, real local feeling. You're not going to see other photographers around there because they don't even, unless they're local, they're not going to know about it. So it's also, if you like to get outside of the places that all the visitors visit, this would be a good area to go to. And you're going to see that once we get into the photos. So now we're going to go into my computer, and I have a map there I created to go over the walk and give you some context. So if you're ever in Yerevan, you can take this walk. Then I'll go over a few more details about the different questions and things I'll be looking at when I go through the photos. And then we'll get into the photos and go through that whole exercise. And then once we're done, we'll get back out of my computer and we'll finish this off. But for now, let's go into my computer. All right, so I have a map up here of Yerevan, this whole area here, and this is Shengavit. As you can see, it's a very large portion, the second largest district in Yerevan. We get a little closer here. So while it's a big district, a lot of the life and neighborhoods are more up here in this top part. And we're going to be focused on these two neighborhoods here, Nurkin and Yerevan. And that's where two of the main stations are. And we'll get a little bit closer here. So this is the area here we're focused on. Now, when I come here, I usually come up from Republic Square, which is up there north in the center, and it's around 4 or 5 stations down, and the metro goes around and it'll come up to this Shengavit metro station and then up at this square. So I like to come here first, get out, and then shoot all around this area, as you'll see in the photos, and then I'll walk up. This is a main street, and then I'll shoot around the main square here and the main metro station, and then around here too, and then finish the day off and hop on the metro and go back. But there's a lot of life around here. There's a lot of neighborhood here to explore, but here it's even more activity. So if you're going to go to one station first and then the next, it's best to end here, especially on the weekdays, because there's a lot of life after work hours there because of how much bigger the metro station is there. So you'll see that in the photos, but these are the main areas. And then I'll show you where markets are and things like that. There's a market right up here, and then there's a couple markets. And then over here, it's just regular neighborhood area. And then you get over here, if you want to, you can go to the famous carpet. This is the most famous carpet manufacturer in Yerevan. All right, so before we get to the photos, let me just go over the questions I'm going to be going through real quick in this exercise. Now, normally when you look at a photo, you're not going to ask all these questions, of course. It's just, is the photo good or not? Do you like it or not? But when you're trying to learn from photos, there are different questions you can ask, especially when you're talking about your photos. So we're going to go over quick questions. I'll say what works, what doesn't work for me. I'll explain what I was going for, what grabbed me. There should be something in the photo that caught your eye that made you take the photo in the first place. When I teach workshops, a lot of times people can't even explain why they took the photo or what's in it. So you should have some type of idea, even if the photo is not good. And then we'll also go over if there's anything bothering me or I wish could have been. And then from there I'll explain if it was because I could have done something maybe differently or I would have, or maybe there was a challenge that you can't see in the frame, outside the frame, that made me take the photo a certain way, which happens a lot of the time. We're always working through challenges out there, especially with unposed photography. I'll go over how I approach the scene, overall feeling, which is really the most important, and then if there are any lessons taken or emphasized, anything I discovered. So that's what we'll go through. I'm not going to do that for every photo, but anything I can think of that's helpful, different insights. And I always like to mention this before we get into it, but sometimes photos just work. They could be technically broken apart, but if it works, it works. Many times the best photos have a bit of error and luck on the edge of failure, pushing that balance of content and form to its limit. So you don't always want to technically break down every photo, but for this exercise, that's what we're going to do. That's why. So let's get to the photos now. So I have around 21 photos that I selected from the walk, and we're going to go in order here of the walk. It was a nice day out too. So this is just in the metro station at Republic Square. As I was waiting to get on, I took a couple photos. Now the metro stations here, there's not a whole lot. The metro system's pretty simple here. And it is that old Soviet style, but it's not the nicest one. But if you have time, why not take a few photos? Now, you're not really supposed to take photos in the metro, so if someone sees you that works there, they'll tell you not to, but it's not a problem really. But what I was going for here, I liked her. She has some character there. I liked her, and then there was people walking around, so I was trying to wait as much as I could for that timing where there was separation mostly, and I liked her stare. She was kind of daydreaming. I liked her the most, and then I was trying to use these as backgrounds with some of the light. Now you don't have much light inside the metro station, so the settings on this are pretty, like I think 6400 ISO, and it's probably 1/100th of a second, so you're dealing with that, but that's what I was going for here. Okay, now we're at Shengavit, by Shengavit metro station, and I went straight into the neighborhoods here, and this was one of the first shots I took, and I like her. I saw her pushing the carriage here. That was already interesting, and when she moved it into the puddle there, she kind of stretched out there because she didn't want to walk into the puddle. So sometimes I like to catch people in mid-gesture like this because it catches people, you know. It's just, you can create some interest just being mid-gesture because it looks a lot different than someone just standing there. So I like her arm out like that as she pushes a cart past that. It's interesting to me. The rest of the scene is whatever, even though there's a little bit of atmosphere of Shengavit. Okay, this was a photo I took pretty quickly, so this is mostly instinctual, but something caught my eye that I thought was a little, you know, sometimes you just feel like something's a little off or interesting and you just take the photo. And it was a shadow here. I like the shadow that he's sitting in. It creates somewhat of an effect there, which I like. And then there's the clothes hanging. So it needs something more, but that's what that's about there. Okay, these guys, I don't really know what this guy was even doing, but I guess he was cutting branches there. So I took a few photos of this, and as I got closer, I tried to put in this man's hand in there, because when I was a little bit further out, it didn't bring me in enough. So in this case, I was trying to get as close as possible using this pole as lines, and then you have the lines of the tree, and trying to catch him as he was walking there with some gesture with the cigarette, and he's got the knife up like that. Yeah, it needs something more, maybe something over here, or it's not enough to me, but it's okay. Now this photo, that's a fountain there. I like the light here quite a bit because it only hits this boy here with the baby, holding the baby, and the baby wearing that blue is really nice. So the rest of the scene has really no color, so that blue stands out, especially in the light. So I like this. There's some mood there. There's some interest with the light there. So again, it could probably use something more, but I do like this right here and the light. And actually, I don't really even want her there. I would rather it was just him. And these towels kind of distract a little bit, but I like it right here. But it could use something more. Okay, so you'll see this a lot, especially around Shengavit, but guys playing board games together. And I was trying to play with the branches here because you see this scene a lot. I mean, I know a lot of photographers would just go right up and take a photo of them playing, but I mean, the odds you're going to get anything that you haven't seen thousands of times before is pretty low. You're just going to get guys playing, so kind of a tourist shot. So I was trying to do something more with it, you know, if I could experiment, play around. So I was trying to use these branches here, trying to use the branches to kind of separate the different individual men here, you know, and then catch this guy as he was walking over. So it kind of blends, you know, life with nature and environment, but it didn't completely work out. It definitely needs something more interesting, and the branches to work a little bit better than this. Okay, so I took the shot pretty quick, but I like these guys, the taxi driver. They're all interesting characters. I like the older car too. I like the pull in between them. I like that. Like he's leaning on the car. So I like them quite a bit. I mean, it's somewhat candid in the way that they're not posing or anything, and I didn't talk to them, but at the same time they're all looking at you. So it's not quite, you don't quite get that same kind of candid feel from this shot. And it is all kind of flat, far away there. There's nothing in the foreground or anything. So it's probably a shot that a lot of people that aren't that into street photography would like, but it's not dynamic enough for me. But it is a nice scene, I'd say. Okay, this is probably so far. I like this photo maybe more than the ones we've seen so far. I like the color here, so this is hanging there drying. The only thing is, so I saw this first, and I like the lines and the color popping out there because nothing else has any color. And then I noticed this girl looking out at me. So, so I took the photo and kind of, you know, composed it with this, just like this, get some shapes and geometry in there, and then the right color, and then the child there. So I like the child quite a bit. The thing that's hurting it for me is the child doesn't stand out that much. So I'm sure if somebody didn't actually give this any time to look at, they probably wouldn't even notice the child there. So the child needs to be a little closer there, and maybe within the square here or within here, and not having this covering the eye there. But once you see the child, I think it makes the photo better, but it doesn't pop out enough for me. It's also a very small part of the scene too. Okay, so I took this shot as I was walking down an alley. Those were the only two guys around, and I just kind of did it as I walked by. What caught my eye is this. He has his arm resting on what looks to be like some type of wire, but it creates a bit of an illusion there because it looks like he's almost resting it back here on the bottom of the window there. So, I mean, if you look at this, and at first it does look a little weird because of that. So I like that. Other than that, there's nothing else. But that's kind of what I was going for. It could work a little bit better with a little more interest, but I did line it up pretty well for being it was a very quick shot. It's not like I stopped and composed it because I didn't want to change the scene at all. Okay, this is especially in Shengavit around there, but in Yerevan in general too, but especially Shengavit, you have a lot of artwork on walls, which I like a lot, this kind of style of artwork. And you'll see another photo that shows more of the artwork. But I like that, and then the light was really good. So you have a nice light and shadow play here. You have the trees and the tree branches and the scene here. And then I like her because of her outfit there. It kind of goes along with it. It's colorful and floral. So I like her a lot, and her face is interesting too, and she's kind of blends into the shadow with the black pants. So maybe she could be a bigger part of the scene. But so this is a far away shot, so you don't have anything that's really pulling you in. It's kind of just this kind of an atmosphere scenic shot, but it for what it is, it's nice. But it could use something more bringing me in. So again, this is what you'll see a lot too in Shengavit, are these garages. Pretty much all of them are painted, you know, with nature and mountains and things like that, which is pretty cool. I like it. But usually there's no one around, at least right now in the winter time. So that's the only problem. So I haven't really gotten anything good from it. So I just took the shot because the light's really nice, and you have some shadow there, and just catching the boys there with that. But there's nothing really unique about this image other than it shows this off. So this definitely needs some more interest. It's a pretty quick shot I took. I like, you have some layers here. It's a bit dynamic. I liked him the most. He's kind of squatting there on his phone, and I like his look there. So I kind of had, while I was walking by, I had to take this real quick because she was moving and everything. So I did it at a quick angle to get him in there too, and him. So I had to turn the camera a bit. And I like the people in the background. It is still kind of a weird angle, and it needs to be a little bit lower. I cut his feet off there. And these people, if they were a little closer, it would be better too. And I'm not a huge fan of that van either. Okay, this is up by the main square that I was talking about. And yeah, so I saw these. There's like a little food spot right here, street food. And I like these lights here and the light with the shadow in the background. They really stand out. So I was playing around with that, but it wasn't that busy around here. But then I saw this guy here, and in a way, his sweatshirt kind of, you know, connects with the light bulbs, how it stands out in little lines like that with black. So I was trying to get him in there, and you have the texture, the shapes down here too. So there's different shapes going on. And let me back up. But so I had to put the camera up higher than I could really even see to get this shot, so I could get these in there too. But that's what I was going for, trying to connect these, playing with some geometry and effect and shadow and light. Yeah, I would have liked if he was a little bit more up here. And then the rest of this is not really helping. So, and these white doors are not helping either. It would be better if this was all black. It would be actually quite a bit better if the background was all black and you just had these against black and then the back of his shirt. The rest of it kind of distracts. This is by a small market by the main square there. And yeah, this is kind of a, I don't know, it's kind of a strange mood for me. He's interesting to me. And I like these posters here, so I tried to compose it so these were on both corners, and then he'd be here at this corner and she'd be there at that corner. Him, I don't, it's a back, so I don't really need him, but it's not that bad because it kind of brings attention to her still. So yeah, I like this photo all right. Maybe it could use something more here and maybe be a little closer, but I couldn't get any closer without taking these out. And if he was more in, that would be a little bit better too. Okay, so this is by the main market right there, by the main square. Very authentic kind of local market, not too big. But as you walk out of the market, they're in this little store here that has different things for sale. So they were interesting to me. I saw these flower pots, and they were just sitting there. They have a lot of character in their faces. And so what I did is I decided to use this as kind of a divider, you know, frame them both in there, get the plants. I took two quick shots, one with the plants in focus like this and one with them more in focus, but I actually like the one with the plants in focus more because they're a little out of focus, but to me it's actually kind of makes it look more interesting. So that's what that is. Yeah, overall it's okay. Maybe if you had some reflection, that would make it better, of something interesting. And maybe if this wasn't so wide, but yeah, that's what that is. This is at a, like, you know, an auto parts store, tires and things like that. This is a pretty, you know, simple shot. I saw them, their heads are in the shadow. They're both eating a sandwich, kind of, you know, mirroring each other, mimicking each other there. So I wanted to catch them in the light there. You have nice blue here, So there are some connections there, and they both had the sandwich down in the same way. So I took the shot real quick, just seeing that. Yeah, so it is what I saw. Maybe the shadow part could be a little bit better, and the light could be a little better because the light's coming from a little bit of an angle, so you can't see the sandwich as much. Like, you just see a little part of the sandwich there. So it would be better if the light was facing them completely with the shadow above here. This is I was playing around with this a little bit, partly because I like this car here, that bright, neon green, and then there's no other color, so it pops, it stands out. The light was going in and out at this point, but and then he was working on something, so I tried to use him, and then I was waiting for people to walk by to see if I can do anything, and I was also aligning the tree up here with the shadow right here, seeing if that would create any type of effect. It would probably create more effect if this wasn't, if the tree was more over here and not put the car behind it like that, and then he didn't have white, so it didn't work. It didn't really work, but that's what I was trying to line up there. A lot of times you can really change a photo, a scene, just by lining up different lines, so they kind of blend or connect together. It can really change a scene, but in this case, it doesn't work. Here's more of that artwork you'll see. So these guys were talking back here for a bit. I like them. They have some character. I like the background here. The light was good. And then you had this tree here. So there's this raised area here where the tree is planted. So I actually stood up there and was trying to take photos down at them while they were talking right here, and using this as kind of a frame within a frame, and then waiting for other people in there. And so I did that for a bit, but then actually the shot that I liked better than that were them leaving. So I caught them right here, right before the branch here. So there is kind of a frame within a frame there, which I like. The shadow parts are nice here, the light and shadow. This is nice. I waited for a little bit of more life there. Yeah, except for the things I don't like. This is a little heavy in this corner here without anything here. The flow kind of just is starting to leave the frame here. Yeah, so if there was something more here, it could help the photo quite a bit. Okay, this is getting back to the near the square again. And yeah, I was playing with this here as people walked by, partly because the way the light was hitting, then there was shadow here from pole. So it kind of blends in to this part here with the shadow there and the light, which I like. So I was waiting for interesting people to walk by. Not too many did, but then I got these three ladies in there, nice fur jackets. She's the most interesting. And then she has some gesture there, so that's what I was going for there, kind of blending it together. But that's what it is. There's not really more to it than that. Okay, this is a photo that actually I think could have been a lot better without him here. And so that's one thing when people are shooting layers and stuff. I didn't want him in there, so I didn't do this wait for him to go in there, but people were walking constantly. But sometimes I have made the mistake of wanting one more person in there, and then it actually hurts the photo. So in this case, this guy definitely hurts the photo because they're pretty interesting. I like them, partly because, well, probably mainly because they're like eating seeds, but they're all doing the same gesture at the same time, and there's three of them, which, you know, three is always a good number visually. They're interesting looking. I mean, they are looking at me, but it's a natural look. It's not posed at all. So I like them. He's sitting up there. So this photo would be a lot better if you could get rid of him. He's somewhat interesting too, but the fact that he's just coming out of the side here, and he's also overlapping this guy, is just like he's going into another picture that he doesn't need to be in. So I wish he wasn't there. And we'll finish off with this photo. So I like the colors in this, and I like his eyes a lot. I like him a lot. One thing is my camera is having some problems lately. I need to get it taken in. With the shutter, sometimes it lags a bit more than I'm used to. So I did clicked the shutter when he was right here. That's what I was going for, and it lagged a bit, so it caught him here. So I'd say that's the part that I wish he was right in the middle here, because she's actually pretty interesting too. And then he wouldn't be walking out of the scene quite as much. He's wearing this army green, so I have the Capturing Color series, if you haven't seen that, a 7-part series. Check that out. But I talk about complementary colors and things like that, and that's what you have here. You have green and red, and this is a really nice red too. So it really goes well together. And then he is very interesting. So I think if he was here, this would have been the best shot of the day. The light's not that strong, so I had to take this, I think 5.6, f5.6, which I usually am around 11, but because of the light. So you can see that there's not as much depth of field, but I did an all right job of getting him in focus considering the light. But I like him a lot. He has a lot of character and expression in those eyes. You know, he's lived. And I like how he's looking at me too. Usually I don't like people looking in my photos, but sometimes it's good. And this is a very natural expression. And yeah, I just wish he was back more. So we'll finish off with that. I think overall there was actually quite a few decent photos in here, but at the same time, I don't know if there's anything that will be a total keeper, but maybe we'll see. But overall, it was definitely a good walk. And out of all the photo walks I've done in Yerevan, I think this was the best of the bunch for this photo walk talk series. But now we'll get back out and we'll finish this thing off. All right, so I hope you enjoyed going through the photos like that and got to see a bit of the walk in Shengavit. Like I said, it's become one of my favorite walks here, maybe my favorite. And it wasn't one I did when I first got here, but I found out from a local. I told them the different things I was looking for, and they actually, usually locals don't give me the best advice of where to go for street photography, but they actually took into consideration of what I like, and they were accurate. It's a great area if you want that authentic local feeling. And when you're shooting in places like that, the one thing you do have to be aware of is they're not used to seeing other photographers there, so it's going to be even weirder to them. And I'm going into neighborhoods and things like that, so it's just a little bit out of the norm. So it's on you to not be suspicious and be friendly, and it's really not hard, but you're going to get more looks there, and you might get more questions too. But I've never had a problem there, especially once I speak. I'm going to be honest, it helps not being a local there, because they lose a lot of suspicion once they realize you're a foreigner and they just assume tourist. But still, just being friendly, not being too suspicious, and just understand that you're going to stand out there. But it's definitely doable there. Very friendly area, and you're going to have a unique character there that you're not going to find in the center of Yerevan. But that brings us to the end of my last photo walk talk video here in Yerevan. I'm about to get out here, but I'll still probably do one more video from here, maybe a last impressions of Yerevan, and then not yet, but I'll tell you the next video where I'm going to be in a completely different place. I had to get out of here because of my visa, and I still can't get back home. But the place that I'm going to is going to be interesting, so I'm looking forward to letting you know where I'll be at. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. Cheers.